heard about millionaires and sons and daughters of billionaires leaving the country. 23,000 millionaires have left India since 2014, supposedly. It's a major reason. It's not tax. Many people say it's because of tax.
Well,
reason.
some people will.
Yeah, okay.
Some will make the excuse
Whatever.
or genuine. I don't know that we can tax
But
or whatever.
it's the quality of life.
So one part of it is quality of life to some extent. Yes, I can have some sympathy on air quality and issues like that. But let us also be very, very clear. Some part of it is that we are not seeing enough churn in our business elite. And so what is happening is that if you create a business elite which is relatively static, after a few generations, they will lose the fire for innovation and they will ask for protection of their industries in India while they set up family offices in Dubai. Every elite will do it across the world, nothing unique to even India. So this is very, very important, therefore, that you keep renewing your elite. That is the reason I talked to you earlier about the ambassador car problem. Okay. After all, there are, in the same Bangalore, which all kinds of problems, there are startups doing amazing things.
Yes, sure.
Those kids are sitting there in somebody's backyard or garage or something and doing new things. So why does it need these millionaires' children to be sitting in Dubai? They don't. So let us not excuse our business elite who are not investing in R&D. They are using their occasional CSR activities as some sort of a substitute for the hard work of being knee-deep in the mud of their factory doing shop floor work. And this happens to every few years to every elite, not just an Indian. This has happened to...
It doesn't worry you?
No. So the key solution to this is to keep our system open enough that it allows for continuous churn. This is why I'm a big, big believer in insolvency and bankruptcy. You have to allow continuous insolvency and bankruptcy. Yes. You have to be completely okay with large companies dying continuously. So, you know, if you go back to 2017, you will remember our banks were in very bad shape. Yeah. How did we clean them? We absolutely bankrupted some of India's largest companies. Did it make our corporate sector weaker? No, it came back much stronger. And we have to allow this continuously. We allowed Jet Airways to die out. That allowed for some other airlines to grow. If those companies are unable to keep up with, better compliance with airlines, civil aviation norms and so on, we should have no problem with allowing this kind of churn to happen.
Since you talked about civil aviation, let me come to that. The criticism is that your government allowed for this duopoly to exist. The other airlines fell off. And as a result of that, the customers are suffering.
No, so I have a different view on this. We should allow continuous churn. Keeping alive Jet Airways, we would have ended up here as well. So we should have no problem with allowing... See, you cannot tax success. If there's an airline that is successful, we should not be unhappy with it till such time that monopoly space is in any way misused. At that point, the regulators
to come in.
And society at large, the regulators are only in a democratic country, society at large has to be okay with disciplining them in whatever way is necessary. It could be market discipline through how customers behave or regulatory discipline. You have to allow that continuous churn.
One question which I want to ask you is that, our financial system that we have, it's been very robust till now. But is it ready to support India's next stage of growth that we have? I'm talking about banks, NBFCs and things.
So the single biggest source of risk-taking and innovation money is actually never going to be banks and NBFCs. They're actually going to be equity money. Okay? And let me say that India's stock markets are currently, capital markets more generally, are currently being able to finance more money raising than even London. I mean, I was in the financial markets. I started in the mid-90s. I would never have believed that Mumbai would be more important as a money-raising center than London or Singapore or some of these big centers. In fact, I remember that Bangkok was a more important financial hub than Mumbai back in the 90s. So the fact that Mumbai allows for this kind of money raising is an extremely good sign. Debt capital is important. Banks are important. I'm not saying they're not important, and there are areas where debt matters, right? But in the end, risk-taking money is important. You need venture capital, you need equity money, you need large, successful new companies listed in the Indian stock market. And India has created many of them. So my measure of Indian success will be that in next 25 years that we talked about, that in 25 years' time, the large companies, the top 20 companies of our stock market are completely different from the ones that are there today. Okay? And I'll show you how that has worked. China, if you go back and look at it, large companies from 20 years ago, you would have counted some large, petroleum companies, some public sector banks, etc., 20, 25 years ago. Today, their largest companies are Alibaba, Tencent,
You hadn't heard
BYD.
of
BYD I hadn't heard of till like 36 months ago. It's one of the largest car companies in the world. You can even see BYD on Indian streets now. So this is what an energetic country does. And even for all the criticism you can do of the US still has this energy. It is still able to create a Google, Facebook, SpaceX, Tesla. Look at they're continuously churning. That is what generates the energy of the US. Now I'll contrast that with Europe. Look at Europe's companies 30 years ago are the same companies today. Their billionaires are who? They are basically who are producing leather handbags and furniture. Right?
Stagnation.
That is stagnation. Even India's billionaires do things which are telecommunications or petrochemicals or whatever, ports or something.
Diversify.
Yeah, so I want to see the next generation should be, that's why the churn is very important. We should not, we should be completely comfortable with people going bankrupt, which should not be held as a moral failure. It is a byproduct of a risk-taking society. And this goes back to my whole point about the voyage of INSV Condinia. That we have to have this risk-taking culture. For all the Condenias that reached the Mekong Delta and married a local princess and set up a kingdom, there must have been many, many others who perished making the voyage.
Yes.
Or got killed by local tribesmen or whatever bad things happened to them. But that was our culture. Europe, when it became, through Renaissance and dominated the world, it had, you may not think Christopher Columbus and Vasco da Gama were good people, but you cannot deny their risk-taking ability to sail off into the unknown.
Talking of bankruptcy in the private sectors and allowing that to happen, talk to me now about governments, state governments, which are facing bankruptcy because of the freebie regimes that are happening. Can we get into that? What is your view on this?
So I have always been very, very uncomfortable with freebies, but I will distinguish between freebies and safety nets. So some amount of safety net is needed in any risk-taking culture because some of it will go wrong by definition. And don't think only on billionaires, trillionaires. A risk-taking culture is taking risk all the time. Whether it is even setting up a kirana shop is a risk for at that level. So if that is what is happening and you're allowing technology to cause churn, you have to allow for the fact that there will be some people falling off at the edges all the time. And you have to have some safety nets for them. So that safety net I am in favor of. Okay, so I want to clarify here. I'm also in favor of some passing of benefits to the poorer sections to give them the ladder to climb up. So that also I have no problem with. Okay, so if you want, for example...
So normal trickle down is not happening, or is it happening?
Some will happen.
The data that you put out with that Shamika had put out, which is like more
so
people
both happen.
Both are happening.
You have to do what I will call assisted trickle down. Some will trickle down to some people, some will not trickle down. For every story you will see of a rickshaw puller's daughter who cracked the UPSC exam or got into IIT or whatever, there are others who didn't. So both have to be done. You have to create the pathways up, and some people will climb. Some people will climb the ladder, and some people have to assist it, have to be pulled up. So that is fine. What I have a discomfort with is this idea that you for example, you know, freebies of women can do ticketless travel in buses. Now, it doesn't really, it's not targeted, whether you're rich or poor. A poor man is as worthy of being supported on public transport as a woman. This is just a clear case of freebie. It's not a large amount usually. And most people should be able to pay that. You can subsidize it to some extent, but this is an example.
So should be tagged to the economics of it all.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to do it in a public. Any case, most people using public transport come from a relatively lower strata. You can subsidize it up to a point, but having these populist things that I have.
But all these Mahila things of Behna, this Behna,
so you have to be very, very careful with
all.
doing all of these kinds of things, and I am particularly uncomfortable with creating. Many states have done having very generous pensions for civil servants, for example. You have to be very, very careful about doing this because you are effectively creating liabilities for the next generation. Because most pensions, now you can have pay-as-you-go schemes, but if you are creating systems that will be paid out of current revenues, then be very, very clear that as our demographic turns at the end of this cycle, after 25 years, the population of working age will shrink. And you will be loading that shrinking working population with the pensions of the previous generation. And they will not be able to pay it. And so what you have, for example, in Europe, you are continuously extending out the retirement age. There is discussion in several European countries of taking it as high as 75. France today has more people getting pension than it has people working. So you will have a serious breakdown if you do not do these kinds of, think these ones through and begin to promise pension. So I always tell young civil servants who are, entering the workforce today that, look, do not be too excited about very generous pensions in the old pension scheme framework because be very clear, through your working life, you will be taxed over the next 35 years. But when you turn up at the top of the queue for getting it, be absolutely clear that there will be no money to pay you. So you should be the one bunch of people who should not be excited about this. Because the demographics will not support it. It's just the arithmetic doesn't work.
Okay, what about those states which complain that we don't have money now for this growth story. We don't have money to build our bridges. We don't have money to build our public infrastructure. What do we do? Like Telangana Chief Minister has already said that. And he's competing against Chandrababu Naidu, who seems to have a lot of funds.
So, yes, I can't comment on individual states because I'm an official of the central government. But let me say that the amount of resources that are now available to states, whether it's from their share of GST or other sources, or for that matter, there is also opportunities of doing any other things from monetizing land and other assets. To say that you do not have resources at the state level, of course, everybody wants more resources. That is generically true. The whole field of economics is about how to do trade-offs for limited resources. But, some of these states...
Like, for example, Bengal has complained against your ministry not giving enough funds.
I am not in any ministry, but
the finance ministry.
The finance ministry. Look, that's part of politics. I cannot comment about it. But let me say the amount of resources now available is order of magnitude higher than what it was a decade ago to all states and at the central level. And if people, if there are states that are finding it difficult to have resources, then I think the citizens of that state need to have an honest look at what the budget is spent on.
So, as I'm concluding, I want to ask you about the position that India occupies in this fragmented global order. Where do you see India now? Is it a balancing power? Would you say it's a swing power? How do you see India?
So we are now, after obviously this, we live in a world of the big two. There are clearly two big economic and military powers in the world, which one is being the US and the other being China. And then there is a next layer. So I would say we are in that next layer, which includes, of course, Europe. It includes us and maybe Japan or whatever other countries you want to add to that layer. We are a part of that layer. but of course, we are growing faster. At some point, we will become, in the next, 24, 36 months, we'll become the world's third largest economy. Our geostrategic position and our military capabilities, depending on which space you look at, we are, I would say, after the big two, we are in the, depending on the field, we are in the next 2-3 countries to be cared about. So if you're taking a military view of the world, then Russia will be in there. If you take an economic view, you may take the European Union in there. So it depends which space you're looking at. But we are an important player. Most fields we would be a serious player in the next
Do
layer.
the G1 and G2 want us closer to them, or do they want the distance between us and G1, G2?
It would be very unusual from a human psychology perspective
to want us to.
We want us to be closing the gap. Even if some of them may want us to be allies in certain activities. So as I said, we should think of the world as a world of frenemies who will collaborate with us in certain areas and oppose us in other areas. Okay. Now, this is not to suggest that we should consequently sort of go back into some shell. No. If you want to play in the world, you have to play
your flex game.
Play the flex game. And it's not just about flex. You have to collaborate with others. You see, in order to be something useful to for them to be useful to you, you have to be useful to them.
Pick your partners carefully.
Pick your partners in the space. What I'm repeatedly saying, multi-alignment is fundamentally different from the idea of non-alignment.
Right.
Non-alignment general idea is the world is a dangerous place. Let us be union leaders of the poor countries and somehow keep away. That is not multi-alignment. Multi-alignment is that we are a player in the world, we matter, and we will align given our own interests with different countries and different spaces depending on what works. Now, what works will have to work for the partner country in that space as well. So, if we have a free trade agreement with some country, it should work for us, but we should also be clear that it has to work for the other guy. Otherwise, why should they do it?
Why would they?
So it is not a passive withdrawal. It is an active act of being a part of the world.
The CA, he recently said, Mr. Nageshwaran said that China does not want to allow India to grow the way West allowed China to grow. So now, how does this align with India's China policy? What's going to happen with that now?
So Anand's view is not different from what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Look, the West encouraged China at a particular point in history, partly because do remember when did that rapprochement happen? It happened in the 1970s. It happened in an environment where the West was trying to wean China away, and then it sort of built up a certain relationship, which the Chinese, to be fair to them, they maxed out, used it maximally to build themselves up. Sure. And good luck to them. I mean, I don't hold it against them that they use the space so beautifully to sort of build themselves up. We may be in a different environment, and it's maybe that the Chinese do not want. But look, there are areas where we may collaborate with them in BRICS and other places. And so where it
on economy, can we, like, for example?
Yes.
You said we have BYDs on our streets now. We threw out TikTok. So where it
suits us, we need to be willing. Let's be very, very clear. For goods imports, China is our biggest supplier of all kinds of inputs. Even the success of our Apple phones would not work without inputs from China. So this whole idea that we have to somehow, that's why I keep going back.
Supply chain.
If you want to be a part of the global supply chain, then you have to be a part of the global supply chain. So. Right. You can either say that I will not play a game of tennis, or you go in there and occasionally you have to be willing that you will not be.
Alternate supply chains, be part of everybody's supply chain.
Yeah, you be a part of and then create and be able to play that game. So if you want to be in the global game, you have to enter the arena.
Okay. Finally, India posted 8.2% GDP growth in July-September quarter. Economists argue that our GDP estimates rely heavily on not on formal sector data, but they are indirectly they're using data points which are not formal. Like what is where is the problem, and is it fudged? I'll ask you directly.
Of course not. I mean, this is based on a very well-established system. This whole criticism is coming because of IMF's C grade that it gave. But be very careful about this, because the IMF has basically, what has it said? It has said very clearly that we need to update our indices, which are already still stuck in 2011-12. By the way, I happen to agree with the IMF's criticism.
Yeah, you've said this often, that we are old tools we are using to measure.
Yes, when we upgrade them, ironically, the level of our GDP, not necessarily the growth rate, the level of our GDP is actually going to be higher. Because if you, for example, have an index or
so
industrial
you come with
production,
a different back clause. That the reason is different. Your motive is different because you say we would be higher.
Yes, because you see that. So the point of the matter is, supposing you have an index which still includes, say, typewriters in there. We don't produce typewriters in any significant quantity, but it doesn't have adequate weightages for, say, cell phones or something we now produce. Will the size of GDP go up or down? It'll go up. So when you upgrade the thing in a changing, forward-moving economy, the upgrading of the index, where everybody is screaming for, will lead to the level of GDP being higher than being measured. Other countries also, it's nothing new. Other countries that do this also see the level goes up. Vietnam did it some time ago, and it turned out Vietnam's GDP was a little bit higher than what they were originally measuring it. It will happen here as well if all our indices, there are many sectors that are not there. For example, podcasting may not be a major sector in there. Maybe today it is, I don't know. And by the way, informal sector is measured in different ways. Some accounting of that happens, but if we add that back, the economy is not going to shrink. It will be bigger than... So this awkwardly for the critics who are not making a methodological point. Those who are saying methodologically, I'm with them. Those who are making a political point, they awkwardly, if and when this upgrade happens, which by the way will happen in February, March of 2026. So not
post-budget you're talking
just a few months from now.
Okay.
And when that happens, there will be more complaints that this actually causes GDP level to be bigger.
Isn't that an international a way of mapping this?
Yes, absolutely. This is common. Every decade we are supposed to do this. We have not done this because the year 2020, see, we went from 11-12, we should have done 21-22. But the 21-22 data had a problem because those were COVID years and the data would have been all over the place. So you had to wait. Now we will do it on 23-24 data, which is
So we make our own measuring tools now, which are going to be more reflective of the
current situation.
realities.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So for all my criticism of Delhi's air quality and municipal management, let me also say that all this construction is also GDP. You can see it all around you. It's not some theoretical thing. I mean, you go to any city, go to Mumbai, look at the new airport, the new coastal road. All of this is GDP growth, and then it facilitates further GDP growth because building it is GDP growth, and then using it is also GDP growth. So this is what GDP growth is. So you could visually see that economic activity is growing.
See, many of the states say this, that, okay, you build this big data centers. Ye sara data, like for example, Bihar will say that data center banaya aapne, but the jobs that they give out are not enough. There aren't many jobs there. And even if they have, say, 3,000 jobs, most of them have come from Bangalore and they're taking the jobs there. So what does one do then?
So first of all, data center is a particularly bad example because it is a data center. Of course, the construction of the data center, managing it, etc., just creates some jobs. But data centers are by definition data centers. But it's an enabling infrastructure for doing everything else.
Yeah.
So if you
with AI, they'll have 15 people doing it.
Maybe 15, maybe not. But AI is an enabling technology for allowing millions of other jobs to happen. So you would not be able to have Blinkit or Zomato or even airlines today without those data centers. So if you're having, let's say you are saying you want tourism, then let's say all the new small hotels that are popping up and are able to market themselves online, they are based on this data center. So to say the data center itself did not generate jobs, first of all, is meaningless. We need these data centers in order to be able to do that. Secondly, to run that data center, you need all kinds of other jobs. You need the energy input into it. You have to build the data center, the inputs into the data center, managing the data center.
Yeah.
There's a huge number of jobs that are created by data centers. So, just simply mining the...
part of our growth story.
It's a part of our growth story.
Okay.
To look at a data center and say that it doesn't have a large number of people is not a meaningful way of thinking about it.